How Ian Direach got the blue falcon.
From the Tales of the West Highlands.
Long ago, a king and queen ruled over the islands of the West, and they had one son whom they loved dearly. The boy grew up to be tall and strong and handsome, and he could run and shoot and swim and dive better than any lad of his own age in the country. Besides, he knew how to sail about and sing songs to the harp, and during the winter evenings when everyone was gathered round the huge hall fire, shaping bows or weaving cloth, Ian Direach would tell them tales of the deeds of his fathers.
So the time slipped by till Ian was almost a man, as they reckoned men in those days. And then his mother, the queen, died. There was great mourning throughout all the isles, and the boy and his father mourned her bitterly also. But before the new year came, the king had married another wife, and seemed to have forgotten his old one. Only Ian remembered.
On a morning when the leaves were yellow in the trees of the glen, Ian slung his bow over his shoulder and, filling his quiver with arrows, went on to the hill in search of game. But not a bird was to be seen anywhere, till at length a blue falcon flew past him, and raising his bow he took aim at her. His eye was straight and his hand steady, but the falcon's flight was swift, and he only shot a feather from her wing. As the sun was now low over the sea, he put the feather in his game bag and set out homewards.
"Have you brought me much game today?" asked his stepmother as he entered the hall.
"Not save this," he answered, handing her the feather of the blue falcon, which she held by the tip and gazed at silently. Then she turned to Ian and said,
"I am setting it on you as crosses and as spells and as the fall of the year, that you may always be cold and wet and dirty, and that your shoes may ever have pools in them, till you bring me hither the blue falcon on which that feather grew."
"If it is spells you are laying, I can lay them too," answered Ian Direach. "And you shall stand with one foot on the great house and another on the castle, till I come back again, and your face shall be to the wind, from wheresoever it shall blow." Then he went away to seek the bird, as his stepmother bade him. And looking homewards from the hill, he saw the queen standing with one foot on the great house and the other on the castle, and her face turned towards whatever tempest should blow.
On he journeyed over hills and through rivers till he reached a wide plain, and never glimpsed did he catch of the falcon. Darker and darker he grew, and the small birds were seeking their nests, and at length Ian Direach could see no more, and he lay down under some bushes, and sleep came to him. And in his dream a soft nose touched him, and a warm body curled up beside him, and a low voice whispered to him,
"Fortune is against you, Ian Direach. I have but the cheek and the hoof of a sheep to give you, and with these you must be content." With that Ian Direach awoke, and beheld Gilmatita the fox. Between them they kindled a fire and ate their supper. Then Gullimaten the fox bade Ian Direach lie down as before, and sleep till morning. And in the morning, when he awoke, Gwitan saying, "The falcon that you seek is in the keeping of the giant of the 5 heads, and the 5 necks, and the 5 humps. I will show you the way to his house, and I counsel you to do his bidding, nimbly and cheerfully, and above all, to treat his birds kindly, for in this manner he may give you his falcon to feed and care for. And when this happens, wait till the giant is out of his house. Then throw a cloth over the falcon, and bear her away with you. Only see that not one of her feathers touches anything within the house, or evil will befall you."
"I thank you for your counsel," spake Direach, "and I will be careful to follow it." Then he took the path to the giant's house.
"Who is there?" cried the giant, as someone knocked loudly on the door of his house.
"Puyama or Muru, one who seeks work as a servant," answered Ian Direach.
"Abo, can you do?" Tuirangarupai.
I can feed birds and tend pigs. I can feed and milk a cow, and also goats and sheep, if you have any of these, replied Yandirech. Then enter, for I have great need of such a one, said the giant. So Yandirech entered and tended so well and carefully all the birds and beasts that the giant was better satisfied than ever he had been, and at length he thought that he might even be trusted to feed the falcon. And the heart of Ian was glad, and he tended the blue falcon till his feathers shone like the sky. And the giant was well pleased, and one day he said to him,
"For long my brothers on the other side of the mountain have besought me to visit them, but never could I go for fear of my falcon. Now I think I can live here with you for one day, and before nightfall I shall be back again." Scarcely was the giant out of sight next morning when Ian Direach seized the falcon and, throwing a cloth over her head, hastened with her to the door. But the rays of the sun pierced through the thickness of the cloth, and as they passed the doorpost, she gave a spring, and the tip of one of her feathers touched the post, which gave a scream, and brought the giant back in 3 strides. Ian Direach trembled as he saw him, but the giant only said,
"If you wish for my falcon, you must first bring me the white sword of light that is in the house of the big women of Direach."
"And where do they live?" asked Ian. But the giant answered, that is for you to discover." And Ian dared say no more, and hastened down to the west. There, as he hoped, he met his friend Gil Meratan the fox, who bade him eat his supper and lie down to sleep. And when he had wakened next morning, the fox said to him,
"Let us go down to the shore of the sea." And to the shore of the sea they went. And after they had reached the shore, and beheld the sea stretching before them, and the isle of Direach in the midst of it, the soul of Ian sank, and he turned to Gillimerton and asked why he had brought him thither. For the giant, when he had sent him, had known full well that without a boat he could never find the big women.
"Do not be cast down," answered the fox. "It is quite easy. I will change myself into a boat, and you shall go on board me, and I will carry you over the sea to the 7 big women of Fiorand. Tell them that you are skilled in brightening silver and gold, and in the end they will take you as servant. And if you are careful to please them, they will give you the white sword of light to make bright and shining. But when you seek to steal it, take heed that its sheath touches nothing inside the house, or ill will befall you."
So Ian Virichoto Nikos Paris Altikono Duca, Dioradikoni Redori, Iakuti Seima Vuapera, then they brought forth the white sword of light from the iron closet where it hung, and bade him wrap it till he could see his face in their shining blade. And he did so. But one day, when the 7 big women were out of the way, he besought him that the moment had come for him to carry off the sword, and replacing it in its sheath, he hoisted it on his shoulder. But just as he was passing through the door, the keep of the sheath touched it, and the door gave a loud shriek. And the big women heard it and came running back, and took the sword from him, and said,
"If it is our sword you want, you must first bring us the bay colt
of the king of Erin. Humbled and ashamed, Yandere left the house and sat by the side of the sea, and soon Gilemerti, the fox, came to him. You know, son, plainly I see that you have taken no heed to my words, Direach, spoke the fox. But eat first, and yet once more will I help you. At these words, the heart returned again to Eyanderek, and he gathered sticks and made a fire and ate with Gwaif Martin the fox, and slept on the sand. At dawn next morning, Gwaif Martin said to Eyanderek, I will change myself into a ship, and will bear you across the seas to Erin, to the land where dwells the king, and you shall offer yourself to serve in his stable, and to tend his horses, till a lel so well content is he, that he gives you the bacon to wash and brush. But when you run away with her, see that not, except the soles of her hoofs, touch anything within the palace gates, or it will go ill with you. After he had thus counselled Direach, the fox changed himself into a ship and set sail for Erin. And the king of that country gave into Direach's hands the care of his horses. And never before did their skins shine so brightly, or was their pace so swift. And the king was well pleased, and at the end of a month he sent for Ian and said to him, For what you have given me faithful service, and now I will entrust you with the most precious thing that my kingdom holds. And when he had spoken, he led Ianderek to the stable where stood the bay colt. And Ian rubbed her and fed her, and galloped with her all round the country, till he could leave one wind behind him and catch the other which was in front. I am going away to hunt, said the king, one morning, while he was watching Yen tend the bay colt in her stable. The deer have come down from the hill, and it is time for me to give them chase. Then he went away, and when he was no longer in sight, Direach led the bay colt out of the stable and sprang on her back. But as they rode through the gate, which stood between the palace and the outer world, the colt swished her tail against the post, which shrieked loudly. In a moment the king came running up, and he seized the colt's bridle. If you want my bay colt, you must first bring me the daughter of the king of the Franks.
Barasan na naristus ti luti i khatarige fojendiri khano na shiaraver kastate małżona na nuzurunest. Alexitavia doshve au poscuinte.
No pachat hadhe. Plainly I see that you have not done as I bid you, nor will you ever do it, spoke Gil Martin the fox. But I will help you yet again. For a third time, I will change myself into a ship, and we will sail to France. And to France so sailed, and as he was the ship, the Guillemette sailed where he would, and ran himself into the cleft of a rock, high onto the land. Then he commanded Direach to go up to the king's palace, saying that he had been wrecked, that the ship was made fast in a rock, and that none had been saved but himself only. And Direach listened to the words of the fox, and he told a tale so pitiful that the king and queen and the princess their daughter all came out to hear it. And when they had heard, naught would please them except to go down to the shore and visit the ship, which by now was floating, for the tide was up.
torn and battered was she, as if she had passed through many dangers, yet music of a wondrous sweetness poured forth from within.
"Bring hither a boat," cried the princess, "that I may go and see for myself the harp that gives forth such music." And the boat was brought, and Ian Direach stepped in to row it to the side of the ship. To the farther side he rowed, so that none could see. And when he helped the princess on board, he gave a push to the boat so that she could not get back to it again. And the music sounded always sweeter, though they could never see whence it came, and sought it from one part of the vessel to another. When at last they reached the deck and looked around them, naught of land could they see, or anything save the rushing waters. The princess stood silent, and her face grew grim. At last she said, "An ill trick have you played me. What is this that you have done, and whither are we going?" "It is a queen you will be," answered Direach, "for the king of Erin has sent me for you, and in return he will give me his bay coat, that I may take him to the 7 big women of Direach in exchange for the white sword of light. This I must carry to the giant of the 5 heads and 5 necks and 5 humps, and in place of it he will bestow on me the blue falcon, which I have promised my stepmother, so that she may flee me from the spell which she has laid on me." "I would rather be wife to you," answered the princess. By and by a ship sailed into harbour on the coast of Erin, and cast anchor there. And Gilbert and the fox bade Direach tell the princess that she must bide yet a while in a cave amongst the rocks, for he had business on land, and after a while they would return to her. Then they took a boat, and rowed up to some rocks, and as they touched the land, Gilbert changed himself into a fair woman, who laughed and said to Direach, "I will give the king a fine wife." Now the king of Erin had been hunting on the hill, and when he saw a strange ship sailing towards the harbour, he guessed that it might be Direach, and left his hunting and ran down to the hill to the stable. Hastily he laid the bay colt from his stall and put the golden saddle on her back and the silver bridle over his head, and with the colt's bridle in his hand he hurried to meet the princess. "I have brought you the king of France's daughter," said Direach. And the king of Erin looked at the maiden and was well pleased, not knowing that it was Gilmaritan the fox. And he bowed low and besought her to do him the honor to enter the palace. And Gilmaritan, as he went in, turned to look back at Direach and laughed. In the great hall the king paused and pointed to an iron chest which stood in a corner. In that chest is the crown that has waited for you for many years, he said, and at last you have come for it. And he stooped down to unlock the box. In an instant, Gilmer Keen, the fox, had sprung on his back and gave him such a bite that he fell down unconscious. Quickly the fox took his own shape again and galloped away to the seashore, where Direach and the princess and the bay colt awaited him. "I will become a ship," cried Gilemaito, "and you shall go on board me." And so he did, and Direach led the bay colt into the ship, and the princess went after them, and they set sail for Durat. The wind was behind them, and very soon they saw the rocks of Durat in front. Then spoke Gilemaito the fox, "Let the bay colt and the king's daughter hide in these rocks, and I will change myself into the colt and go with you to the house of the 7 big women." Joy filled the hearts of the big women when they beheld the bay colt led up to their door by Direach. And the youngest of them fetched the white sword of light and gave it into the hands of Direach, who took off the golden saddle and the silver bridle, and went down the hill with the sword, to the place where the princess and the real colt awaited him. "Now we shall have the ride that we have longed for," cried the 7 big women, and they saddled and bridled the colt, and the eldest one got upon the saddle. Then the second sister sat on the back of the first, and the third on the back of the second, and so on for the whole 7. And when they were all seated, the eldest struck her side with a whip, and the colt bounded forward. Over the moors she flew, and round the mountains, and still the big women clung to her and snorted with pleasure. At last she leapt high in the air and came down on top of Monhead the high hill, where the crag is. And she rested her 4 feet on the crag and threw up her hind legs, and the 7 big women fell over the crag and were dead when they reached the bottom. And the colt laughed and became a fox again, and galloped away to the seashore, where Ian Direach and the princess and the real colt and the white sword of light were awaiting him. Ma uma amakaria gile Martha, ma uma amakaya amakaya. Kaya e aulu e kalo aulu aulu e kalo aulu e lain. Yendav solu aulwe gile Martha kaya, yendere kum kai solu. Let the princess and the white sword of light and the bay colt remain among the rocks, and I will change myself into the likeness of the white sword of light, and you shall bear me to the giant, and instead he will give you the blue falcon. And Ian Direach did as the fox bade him, and set out for the giant's castle. From afar the giant beheld the blaze of the white sword of light, and his heart rejoiced, and he took the blue falcon and put it in a basket, and gave it to Ian Direach, who bore it swiftly away to the place where the princess and the bay colt and the real sword of light were awaiting him. So well content was the giant to possess the sword he had coveted for many a year, that he began at once to whirl it through the air, and to cut and slash with it. For a little while Gilmairton let the giant play with him in this manner. Then he turned in the giant's hand and cut through the 5 necks, so that the 5 heads rolled on the ground. Afterwards he went back to Ian Direach and said to him, "Saddle the colt with a golden saddle, and bridle her with a silver bridle, and sling the basket with the falcon over your shoulders, and hold the white sword of light with its back against your nose. Then mount the colt, and let the princess mount behind you, and ride thus to your father's palace. But see that the back of the sword is ever against your nose, else when your stepmother beholds you, she will change you into a dry fagot. If, however, you do as I bid you, she will become herself a bundle of sticks." Ian Direach hearkened to the words of Gilmairton, and his stepmother fell as a bundle of sticks before him. And he set fire to her and was free from her spells forever. After that he married the princess, who was the best wife in all the islands of the west. Henceforth he was safe from harm, for had he not the bay colt who could leave one wind behind her and catch the other wind, and the blue falcon to bring him game to eat, and the white sword of light to pierce through his foes? Amanat and Ian Direach knew that all this he owed to Gilmairton the fox, and he made a compact with him that he might choose any beast out of his herds whenever hunger seized him, and that henceforth no arrow should be let fly at him or at any of his race. But Gilmairton the fox would take no reward for the help he had given to Ian Direach, only his friendship. Thus all things prospered with Ian Direach till he died